All right, I see we are at the top of the hour. Thank you to everyone for joining us here today. My name is Miranda Kennedy. I'm with the Able National Resource Center. And today we have our Spotlight webinar on the Texas Able program. If we can go to the next slide. The Able National Resource Center, in case you may be new to our webinars and our platform, the Able National Resource Center, or Able NRC, is the leading comprehensive source of objective, independent information about federal and state-related ABLE programs and activities, including guidance on tax-advantaged ABLE savings accounts. Our mission is to educate, promote, and support the positive impact ABLE can make on the lives of millions of Americans with disabilities and their families. Our pioneering work in this area and subject matter expertise makes us the foremost authority on topics related to the Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE Act, ABLE accounts, state ABLE programs, ABLE-related policy developments, and comprehensive integration of ABLE and financial capability strategies for people with disabilities into public service delivery systems. Founded and managed by National Disability Institute since 2015, the Able National Resource Center and our Able National Resource Center website, ablenrc.org, has become the go-to source for all information on ABLE for people with disabilities and their families, as well as employers, state and federal agencies, service providers, tax practitioners, financial planners, and attorneys. The Able National Resource Center is privately owned and managed and is not affiliated with the U.S. federal government. And while we provide a wealth of targeted resources and best practice guidance to support your use of ABLE accounts, our staff does not provide case management on Social Security benefits or advice about investing in specific ABLE programs. I wanted to provide that as a background, but now we're going to go ahead and I'm handing it over to my colleague, Hope Price, who's going to walk us through the logistics, and then I'll introduce you to today's presenters and our agenda, and we'll dive into our spotlight. So Hope, what can folks do to help them with their listening and engagement with the webinar today?
Thank you, Miranda. For listening to the webinar, the audio for today's meeting can be accessed using computer audio or by calling in by phone. If you select computer audio, please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer or prefer to listen by phone, please dial 1-929-205-6099, meeting code 835-6325-3874. For captioning, real-time captioning is provided during this webinar. The captions can be found by clicking on the closed captions icon in your Zoom controls at the bottom of the screen. For submitting questions, please use the Q&A box to submit any questions you have during the webinar. Please do not use the chat box. We will try to answer all questions. Please explore the Able National Resource Center website for answers to all of your questions and for additional information within our archived webinars, resources, and newsletters at ablenrc.org. For technical assistance, if you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the NDI host or email me at hprice@ndi-inc.org. Please note this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on the Able National Resource Center website along with all of our other ABLE webinars at ablenrc.org/resources/webinars. Miranda, back to you.
Thank you, Hope. So my name is Miranda Kennedy. I'm the director of the Able National Resource Center, and I'm happy to provide this opportunity for this spotlight for our presenters today. I'll be the facilitator. Also, behind the scenes, you're going to be getting some support from my colleague, Marlene Uliski, who will be answering any basic ABLE questions you might have in the chat or the Q&A. Not specific to the Texas ABLE program, but if you had any basic ABLE questions along the way, she'll be able to help support that. We also have a Q&A at the end for our presenters where we can dive into those specific questions about the Texas ABLE program. Speaking of our presenters from the Texas ABLE program. Let me introduce you to Linda Fernandez, who is Director of the Texas Comptroller's Division that provides support to the board, chaired by Comptroller Glenn Hager, that administers the state's prepaid tuition plans, college savings plans, and the Texas ABLE program. She also works with the Texas Match, the Promise Foundation, a public charity that awards scholarships to participants in the state's prepaid tuition plan. Linda has over 40 years of experience in financial leadership positions with the state of Texas. She has served as a board member of the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation and the American Heart Association, as a PTA president, and as a member of Autism ISD Campus Advisory Councils. She was appointed to the State Employee Charitable Campaign Advisory Committee by Governor Greg Abbott. We also have with us Rob Percival, who is Senior Vice President of Strategic Relationships with the Orion Advisor Solutions, the Program Manager of the Texas ABLE Plan. Rob has been involved in the 529 savings industry for over 18 years and has experience in launching and administering over 20 different ABLE plans across the country since 2016. He has taken an active role in ABLE plan advocacy at the national level, representing the private sector administrator perspective and working collaboratively with other ABLE stakeholders to enhance the reach and effectiveness of ABLE plans. We also have with us Dr. Jane Bost, who is a mountain hiker, painter, gardener, licensed psychologist, former Texas ABLE Advisory Committee member, wife, sister, and a mom of an adult child with different abilities. She is also the Counseling Center Director at Southwestern University and Associate Director at the University of Texas Counseling and Mental Health Center for 23 years. Jane will share her family's successful experience with the Texas ABLE account. You'll also be getting to witness the story that Ted Galanos will be sharing via video as a Texas ABLE account owner. So looking forward to sharing that with you as well. If we go to the next slide and take a look at our agenda. I know we're actually first going to be just giving you a snippet about the ABLE NRC Spotlight Series, what this is, but we'll also be doing a review of the ABLE Roadmap to Enrollment, and then the Texas ABLE and some basic elements of ABLE accounts will be provided by the Texas ABLE program, who will also then be diving into their program features. And then you'll be hearing throughout the presentation Texas ABLE account holder stories, which can help to bring this to life. And then we have saved some time at the end of our hour and a half here together today for questions and answers for our presenters. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. Just to give you a little bit of insight about this Spotlight series we have, we conduct a series of ABLE program Spotlight webinars throughout the year as the opportunity arises. These webinars are really intended for those who already have a basic understanding of ABLE, although I'll give you the roadmap next, and that'll help you in case you need to catch up. And I know the Texas ABLE program will also give you some basics. But the point really is that it gives the platform to the state ABLE programs that are part of either multi-state collaborations or individual state programs like Texas, which is open to in-state residents in Texas, an opportunity to provide program-specific details, as well as some general guidance and best practices specific to their program. So each program spotlight will also cover concepts related to investing and saving, so that individuals who want to make the most of their ABLE account have a better understanding of these options, especially as we understand many of these individuals who are ABLE eligible or their families, this might be some of the first opportunity to move in that direction. So we want to help build a foundation there from which to grow. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide, which will give us a roadmap to ABLE. This is information that you can find on our ABLE National Resource Center website. We have first our roadmap to enrollment, which can cover information such as what is ABLE, who is eligible, how can funds be used, how do I manage my account, and how do I enroll? So some of those basics that can set you up for moving towards opening that account. These are just 3 to 4 minute videos, as well as some specific guidance on each of those 5 steps. The roadmap to independence is for those folks who, now I've got an ABLE account. How do I make the most of it? Which covers the 5 steps of setting those financial goals, building a circle of support who can help you and who also can contribute to your ABLE account, how to make those smart financial decisions, how to monitor the ABLE account, and how to celebrate financial independence. These roadmaps are also available in Spanish. So I wanted to point that out for folks who feel like they need to refresh themselves on some of those basics that I know Texas is going to be going through here shortly, but they're going to move through it fairly quickly. So if you want a deeper dive, this is a good resource for you. Next up is going to show you a map of the ABLE programs across the country. And this is also available on our website to help folks understand there are a lot of options. We certainly encourage folks to take a look at their home state first in case there's some additional incentives or resources. Many of the ABLE programs are open across the country to non-in-state residents, but this resource on our website can help you choose the ABLE program that's right for you. We offer a tool that helps compare state ABLE programs. There's 45 state ABLE programs, so we have like a 3-state comparison tool. You can take a look at programs side by side and check that out. We also have, if you click on our website, how to join our listserv as well, which you see that link is not on here, but Marlene can include that in the chat as well. So this is just a resource to help you understand how expansive ABLE is. We've had programs open even very recently. This is all very new space for the ABLE programs, but it's growing, it's dynamic, and since the inception in 2016, there's been over $550 million invested in ABLE accounts, with $100 million used to purchase, to use for qualified disability expenses. It's really a growing opportunity and very exciting. So with that, I'm actually going to hand the ball over to Linda to share a little more about Texas ABLE Basics, and then also the Texas program itself, so you can understand that even better, all of the different features. And just a little teaser, I know they've got an announcement to share about how they're evolving and growing and some new things they even have in place or have coming up. So you're going to be hearing it here first. We're going to be breaking some news, right, Linda?
That's correct. Thank you, Miranda. And I'd like to thank the ABLE National Resource Center and the National Disability Institute for this opportunity to bring you some information about our Texas ABLE program. Joining me today is going to be Rob Percival, who is with our program manager, which is Orion Advisor Solutions, Inc. So let me start off. Next slide, please. So as Miranda mentioned, we're going to start out with a very high-level overview of the Federal ABLE Act, the things that apply to all ABLE programs, and then we're going to tell you a little bit specific to the Texas ABLE program, and then you're going to hear some account holder stories from individuals that are enrolled in the Texas ABLE program. Next slide. So before we begin, I need to tell you that today we're only going to provide limited highlights of the Texas ABLE program. Our office cannot provide legal, tax, financial benefit, or investment advice, or advice regarding penalty avoidance under applicable tax law. You should contact your attorney, financial advisor, or other advisor regarding your specific legal, tax, financial benefit, or investment situation. And you should carefully read the program disclosure statement and participation agreement that's available on our website for detailed information about the program before deciding whether or not to enroll. Next slide. So let's talk about the Federal ABLE Act. Next slide, please, ma'am. So the Stephen Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience, ABLE Act, was passed by Congress in 2014, and that act amended the Internal Revenue Code to add Section 529A that authorizes states to establish ABLE programs. The act created a new savings option for individuals with disabilities to allow them to save money in a tax-advantaged account to be used for qualified disability expenses and keep their eligibility for public benefits. Next slide. A little bit about the account. These are tax advantage investment account. I'm going to tell you a little bit more in a minute about what that means for eligible individuals with disabilities. And the federal act was clear that funds in an ABLE account are intended to supplement but not supplant benefits provided through Medicaid, supplemental security income, and Social Security disability insurance. By federal law, the beneficiary owns the account, and a beneficiary may have only one ABLE account. So when I say tax advantage, what I mean is that any earnings on withdrawals from the account are exempt from federal income tax if they are used to pay for the beneficiary's qualified disability expenses. Next slide. So to be eligible under the federal law, an individual must have developed their disability before the age of 26. Now, they could be older than 26 and still be eligible for the program. It's just that their disability had to have occurred before the age of 26. And they must meet only one of the following criteria. They either need to be eligible to receive SSI or SSDI, or have a condition listed on Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances conditions, or they can obtain a physician's diagnosis of a medically determinable physical or mental impairment that results in marked and severe limitations, which can either be expected to result in death or has lasted or is expected to last at least 12 months. Next slide, please. There are some limits on the contributions. A beneficiary that is not employed cannot have contributions in excess of $15,000 per year. That's tied to the annual gift tax exclusion, so it's subject to change, but it's $15,000 this year and will be $15,000 in 2021. A beneficiary that's employed can have an additional amount in contributions. They can have up to $27,140 per year. $15,000 of that can be from any source, but the remaining $12,140 must come from the beneficiary's wages. And to be eligible for this, the individual cannot be contributing to any other retirement or pension program in order to contribute that higher amount. And if you're collecting Social Security benefits, the account balance up to $100,000 is disregarded when determining eligibility for certain means-tested federal benefits. The total resource limit is $102,000. So if you have no other resources outside of the Texas ABLE account, you could have up to $102,000. But if you do have other resources up to $2,000 outside of the ABLE account, then the limit would be $100,000 before it would temporarily suspend your SSI benefits. Next slide. Withdrawals may be used to pay for qualified disability expenses that relate to the individual's disability and are for the benefit of maintaining or improving his or her health, independence, or quality of life. And this includes basic living expenses, and it's not limited to expenses for which there is a medical necessity. Next slide. These are the categories of expenses that were listed in the Internal Revenue Code. You'll see it's a very expansive list. Funds in an ABLE account can be used for qualified disability expenses related to education, housing, transportation, employment training and support, assistive technology and personal support services, health, prevention and wellness, financial management and administrative services, legal fees, oversight and monitoring, funeral and burial expenses of the beneficiary, and other expenses that might be identified from time to time by the Internal Revenue Service. Next slide. So one of the most important things about an ABLE account is the impact on benefits. As I mentioned earlier, before ABLE, individuals receiving SSI benefits could not have more than $2,000 in resources without losing their eligibility for those much needed benefits. After ABLE, individuals can save up to $100,000 in an ABLE account and still retain their eligibility for SSI and other means tested state and federal benefits. So it's $102,000 combined. So if you don't have any resources outside ABLE, as I mentioned earlier, then you could have $102,000 in your ABLE account. Next slide. So now let's talk about some of the features that are unique to our Texas ABLE program. Next slide, please. So the Texas ABLE program was created by the Texas legislature, and it's established and maintained by the Texas Prepaid Higher Education Tuition Board with assistance from the Texas Comptroller's Office. We launched our program in May of 2018. Texas residency is currently required to participate in the Texas ABLE program. Our board has the option to make it a nationwide program if they choose to do that in the future, but right now individuals have to be a Texas resident to participate in Texas ABLE. Next slide. The Texas Prepaid Higher Education Tuition Board is a 7-member board chaired by the Comptroller with 6 appointed members. 2 are appointed by the governor and 4 by the lieutenant governor. I mentioned that Orion Advisor Solutions is the program manager. And we also had a Texas ABLE Advisory Committee, a 7-member committee appointed by the Comptroller that helped us implement the program. So let me tell you a little bit about that group on the next slide, please. Here's a picture of our Texas ABLE Advisory Committee along with some of our staff members that work with the program. So the advisory committee was established in statute by the legislature with the purpose to review rules and procedures, provide guidance, suggest changes, and make recommendations for administration of the program, and to provide assistance as needed to the board and comptroller during creation of the program. The statute gave the comptroller the authority to appoint the members, but designated that it must include at least 1 member from each of the following groups: a person with a disability who qualifies for the person, family members of a person with a disability who qualifies for the person, representatives of disability advocacy organizations, and representatives of the financial community. This group was absolutely invaluable to us in developing and rolling out the ABLE program to bring the perspective of what it meant to persons with a disability as to how we structured the program and what we offered through the program. Next slide, please. So the Texas ABLE program is a program for Texans that was built by Texans. We have online account access and management. When you enroll in the program, there's a self-attestation process where you will confirm eligibility by responding to a series of questions related to the eligibility criteria that I went through earlier. We have bilingual customer service team, and we also have marketing information materials that are in Spanish and English. We have a contribution tracking and monitoring process as part of our system to help you be sure that you do not exceed the limitations on contributions that we spoke about earlier. Our website was audited to make sure that it was compliant with ADA, Section 508 of the Rehab Act, and the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. We provide annual account statements to the individuals that are enrolled in the program. And there's a maximum contribution limit of $500,000 for a beneficiary of the Texas ABLE program. That would be for individuals that are not concerned about retaining those benefits. As we mentioned earlier, there's a $100,000 limitation for that. Next slide, please. So there are two types of individuals that can open an ABLE account. The eligible individual with the disability can establish and manage their own account as long as they're a Texas resident that's at least 18 years of age. Or an authorized legal representative of an eligible individual can establish an account. That could be a parent, legal guardian, or other fiduciary. For example, a trustee, an agent acting under a power of attorney, or a representative payee. On the representative payee, I should mention that while the new IRS regs allow for that, at the present time, it's not appropriate for a rep payee to conserve and save funds in an ABLE account. The ABLE account must also meet the rules of the Social Security Administration's rep payee program, and the Social Security Administration is now compiling their guidelines on that subject. As far as power of attorney, we have a limited power of attorney form available on our website that is limited to only having a power of attorney over an ABLE account. So individuals can use that form if they'd like to set up that limited power of attorney. One of the things we do through Texas ABLE, if an ALR requests to establish an account, we do verify that that individual is authorized to establish an account on behalf of that eligible individual. Since they can have only one account in their name, we want to be sure that that person is indeed authorized to establish that account. Next slide, please. So you can enroll online. ABLE is open for enrollment year-round, 24 hours a day. You enroll at texasable.org. It's a very simple, intuitive platform. There's no enrollment fee to enroll in Texas ABLE. There's a $50 minimum deposit to establish an account, and subsequent contributions have to meet a $25 minimum. Enrollment takes usually about 20 minutes. One of the things you'll do during enrollment is select your investment options, how you want the funds invested that you deposit to the program, and we're going to tell you more about that in a moment. Next slide, please. Very easy to use an ABLE account. You can make contributions through personal or cashier's check. You can set up payroll deduction. You can do an electronic funds transfer, an automatic contribution plan. You can roll over funds from a 529 college savings account. That's something relatively new that Congress passed a couple of years ago. Of course, you have to be mindful of the $15,000 a year contribution limit. You can also roll over funds from another ABLE program. You can roll over your account to Texas ABLE. We have a nice online e-gifting tool I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And also you can make contributions from a special needs trust to a Texas ABLE account. Withdrawals are done online to pay for qualified disability expenses. You can make withdrawals by check or by ACH by transferring funds to your bank electronically. And you can also transfer funds to your prepaid debit card. Next slide. Once you establish an account, you can set up online access to view all your account details online. You can see your account balance, your transaction history, and investment performance activity. You request withdrawals online. You can change your investment options online. You can set up recurring contributions. And if you need to send documents to the program, you can upload those documents electronically. Next slide. So our online e-gifting tool allows you to create an e-gift event that you do from your online account to be sent to family or friends via email, and it contains a link and a personalized message with instructions on how they can contribute directly to the account. It's a secure and easy way for others to contribute for things like birthdays, holidays, or other milestones in your life, or just because they'd like to help. Next slide, please. So I mentioned you'll have to select your investment options when you set up the account. We've got 4 investment options, including an FDIC insured bank savings option. So you would choose one or a combination of the 4. So you could allocate 100% to one option. You could divide your deposit between all options, whatever you choose to do. So you can change those investment options up to twice a year as allowed by the Federal ABLE Act. And the fees will vary based on the investment option that you select. All that information is available online in our program disclosure statement. There's extensive information there about the different investment options that are available, the risk associated with those, and the fees. Next slide, please. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Rob Percival to talk to you about those investment options. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That's great. Again, I'm Rob Percival with Orion Advisor Solutions, and we work with Linda and the great team over at Texas ABLE to help administer the program. We realize that saving and investing are concepts that aren't always second nature to prospective ABLE plan account holders. So the investment lineup for the Texas ABLE plan was thoughtfully designed with this in mind to be as straightforward as possible while offering choices for all types of investing time horizons and risk tolerances. As Linda mentioned, there are 4 options to choose from, including an FDIC insured bank savings option, and you can select any combination of the 4 options. Depending on your savings goals, it's not uncommon for ABLE account holders to allocate a portion of their savings to the bank savings option to cover their shorter-term qualified disability expenses, things like rent, for example, or other day-to-day expenses, while also allocating a portion to one of the 3 managed allocation portfolios for any longer-term savings goals they may have. Think of, a home or an accessible vehicle purchase or other assistive technology. And as Linda noted on the previous slide, if your savings goals evolve over time, there is the ability to move funds among the investment options up to twice per calendar year. So keep that in mind. More detailed information about the options for investing and the associated fees are available in the program disclosure statement. Now, while this slide has a lot going on, it's really just meant to show the breakdown of underlying investment products that comprise each option. Managed allocation options invest in a combination of equity and fixed income mutual funds from well-respected investment firms, and the bank savings account option is made up entirely of an FDIC insured bank savings account. Specifically for the managed allocation options, the equity funds are the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund and the Vanguard Total International Stock Market Index Fund. And the fixed income funds are the PIMCO Total Return Fund and the Eaton Vance Floating Rate Fund. The pie charts that you see on the slide for the managed allocation options show the portion of each of those options that is invested in those specific mutual funds that I just mentioned and that are listed below the charts. Starting on the left side, the aggressive option is made up of mostly equity-based mutual funds, approximately 80%. Which generally are expected to provide the potential for higher returns over a longer time horizon. Conversely, on the other end of the managed allocation options, the moderately conservative option includes a higher percentage of fixed income funds, approximately 75%, that will generally provide less return over time, but that will also carry less risk. And in the middle is the moderate option, which consists of a more balanced combination of equity and fixed income funds. Let's take a look at the next slide, please. Okay, as you can see, this table provides some of the most recent performance of the investment options, and these figures are available on the plan website and updated each day. You also do have the option to switch between seeing the latest month-end or quarter-end returns data, depending on how you want to take a look at that. The performance on the allocation options will largely depend on the performance of the stock markets and the bond markets, as you could imagine, while the bank savings options return is tied to short-term interest rates, which, as you may be aware, are at historical lows at the moment, essentially close to zero currently. And this is important to keep in mind, since while the bank savings option is intended for capital preservation, it is possible, depending on how much is contributed to that option, that you won't see any interest accrued, but it will still have plan expenses charged against your account. So that is something to factor in there as you look at what you want to invest in. While the allocation options involve some risk, certainly, they're also designed with the potential for gains that could offset the plan's expenses over time. At this time, I'll turn it back to Linda, who will talk about some of the other details of the Texas ABLE program.
Thank you, Rob. The next slide, please. There are also account fees associated with an ABLE account. There's a monthly account maintenance fee of $4. If you opt for delivery of program documents by electronic delivery, there is no cost. If you prefer paper delivery, there's a $10 annual fee for that. There's a $5 fee for each withdrawal by check. And for ACH withdrawals, the first 2 each month are free. They're included in your $4 charge, but everything after those first 2 will cost $1 per withdrawal. So as I mentioned, there's no fee for enrollment, no fees for rollovers from another ABLE program or from a 529 college savings account, or for things like change of beneficiary or change of authorized legal representative. Next slide, please. So Miranda mentioned that we have an exciting announcement. We are so pleased to announce that our prepaid debit card will be available soon. This will be a simple and fast way for Texas ABLE account owners to access their funds to pay for qualified disability expenses while they're out shopping or eating or making purchases online. It is a reloadable prepaid debit card funded by withdrawals from your Texas ABLE account. And it can be used online or in stores anywhere that accepts Visa debit cards. So you can view your balance and transaction history via the U.S. Bank mobile app or online. You can sign up to receive text or emails when you've got a new amount loaded to your account that's available, or if you're getting low on the balance. There's no enrollment fee to participate with a prepaid debit card. We are going through the final programming and testing phase right now of implementing the program. We expect to do a soft launch here in the next week or 2, and then it will be available at the time of enrollment on our website, or for individuals that have an existing ABLE account, they'll be able to request an ABLE debit card also. So we're really excited about this. We know it's a convenience to our ABLE account owners to have a debit card associated with their account. Next slide, please. We're often asked about whether someone should have an ABLE account or a special needs trust. The two work very nicely together. A special needs trust can contribute to a beneficiary's account. Funds contributed by a special needs trust to an ABLE account do not affect the beneficiary's eligibility for SSI, even when those funds are used to pay for food and shelter. So what's nice about having those funds from a special needs trust deposited into an ABLE account is it allows the ABLE beneficiary or the ALR to manage his or her own funds without going through the special needs trustee when they need to make a payment. And any earnings in an ABLE account are exempt from federal tax if they are used to pay for the beneficiary's qualified disability expenses. If you have a smaller amount of funds that you would like to set up, ABLE can often be a less costly alternative than setting up a special needs trust. Next slide. At this time, we would like to play a video by Ted Galanos, who is a very special Texas ABLE account owner. Ted is a 47-year-old gentleman from Houston, Texas. We recently featured him in one of our comptroller publications to tell Ted's story. And he also placed second in the 2019 Able to Save video contest from the ABLE National Resource Center. So we'll give you a chance now to hear Ted's video. Hope or Anna, can you load the video for us, please?
Hi, Hope. Can we just check in and see what the status of the video starting is?
Yes, I'm just having a switching problem. One moment.
It'll be worth the wait, everyone.
For sure.
Well, and this is the video that he was one of the winners of our Able to Save video contest last year for ABLE National Resource Center out of Texas. So we're familiar with Ted, and he does have a great story.
Yeah, he has a great story. He is a very unique individual.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Galanos, and I live in Houston, Texas. My ABLE account is through the Texas ABLE program. I live in a nursing home, and I have several significant disabilities, some of which are blindness, wheelchair mobility, and amputations to all of my fingers. The ABLE account allows for my family and friends to contribute to me financially without putting my benefits at risk. I am able to save to go on special outings outside of the nursing home, such as adaptive water skiing, hunting, and fishing. I also hope to save enough to get an accessible apartment or house and have provider care services for my daily living needs.
So as we mentioned, Ted is quite an individual, and we appreciate him working with the Texas ABLE program. Next slide, please. Now we want to introduce you to Dr. Jane Boss. She is a certified and licensed psychologist who served as the Associate Director of the University of Texas Counseling and Mental Health Center for over 15 years before retiring in 2015. So we laughingly use the word retired when we refer to Jane because, as Miranda mentioned earlier, she's very, very active. She's an advocate for causes she believes in. She's a very talented painter, an avid hiker, and the mother of Morgan, a beneficiary of a Texas ABLE account. Jane served as a member and presiding officer of the Texas ABLE Advisory Commission that we talked about earlier, and we simply could not have rolled out the program without Jane. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Jane to hear her story. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to share our ABLE story on this national webinar. I will share that story in 3 parts, so here we go with part 1. After a normal pregnancy, our daughter Morgan was born July 29, 1990, without complication at St. David's Hospital, Austin, Texas. My husband David and our 3-year-old son Christopher and myself were on top of the world. However, within the hour, the medical staff informed us that they were observing seizure movements and needed to do a CAT scan. Bottom line, for unknown reasons, sometime prior to birth, Morgan had experienced a significant stroke which had destroyed areas in her brain. We spiraled from the mountaintop to the deepest pit of despair. The specific prognosis was unknown, but definitely not good. Our pediatric neurologist, Dr. Izam Godzi, met with us the next day, and for the first time, we felt some flutter of hope. He told us that while he would not give false hope, that much recovery of the function could happen due to plasticity of the brain. We would need to give Morgan recommended therapies and, of course, a lot of love. Fast forward a few years ago, when Dr. Godzi had a follow-up CAT scan and MRI done on Morgan, he told us, "No neurologist in the world would ever believe that our Morgan was the same person who had that initial CAT scan. She had surpassed every prediction and then some." At the same time, while being the most joyful person I've ever known, along with a ton of other magical positive attributes, Morgan has significant learning disabilities, no fine motor use of her right hand, and a very limited ability to communicate verbally due to severe oral motor coordination issues. When she was younger, she communicated with an adapted sign language due to her right hand limitations. It was around this time, elementary school, that an occupational therapist said to me, "Jane, Morgan will be an excellent communicator." To say the least, I was highly dubious. Later, during high school, Morgan was using the best augmentative communication device on the market to communicate, but the device was slow, heavy, and required Morgan to memorize complicated patterns. So Morgan was also communicating at that point by physically writing on paper with her left hand. Her vocabulary was small but growing. Then one day at an ARD meeting at school, Morgan's school aide relayed a suggestion from her teenage daughter that would change Morgan's life forever. How about Morgan using a cell phone to communicate? All the teachers, administrators, specialists, therapists, and we parents said a collective, "Duh, why didn't we think of that?" Following up, we researched cell phones that would work with Morgan's needs, bought one, and she quickly picked up on how to use texting with voice output function to communicate. Morgan badly wanted to communicate, and the cell phone texting gave her the motivation to learn lots more words to do so. So today, Morgan not only uses her cell phone, but in recent years, she also uses an iPad, especially as a way to FaceTime with one or more friends. She often uses both her cell phone to speak her words or show pictures or videos to her buddies as she uses FaceTime on that iPad. This technology has opened so many important doors for our daughter. As we've all rediscovered during this COVID time, social connection is vital to all of us humans, and for Morgan, perhaps even more so since she cannot verbally communicate. Which brings me to part 2 of the story. Many of you know that in order to retain eligibility for federal or state entitlement benefits like Social Security disability, you cannot have more than $2,000 at a time in financial assets under that person's name. You are penalized severely if you go over that amount at any time. Morgan proudly started working at a part-time clerical job, 6 hours a week, in her early 20s. This was a tremendous boost to her sense of efficacy and independence. But ironically, her job earnings and her Social Security benefits also made staying within that $2,000 limit even more challenging. In addition, David and I were trying to be conservative in spending from the account so that there could be a buffer there in the event of medical expenses or other larger necessary expenses. As a result, a Social Security audit revealed that several times we had gone over that $2,000 limit, but we were penalized the full amount of her Social Security check for each of those times, resulting in about a $3,000 payback to Social Security. It was around this time that a friend of mine, Chris Macy, who was working at the Coalition for Texans with Disabilities, told me about the Federal ABLE Act and that a Texas ABLE program was being formed through the state of Texas Comptroller's Office. He said that ABLE's purpose was to provide a financial savings option for people with disabilities that would not count towards the $2,000 limit. That was so exciting to hear. He said the Comptroller's Office was looking for qualified individuals to serve on an ABLE advisory committee to help develop and implement such a program in Texas. With my permission, he nominated me, and luckily I was chosen to serve on the Texas ABLE Advisory Committee for 2 years as a member, then 2 years as a presiding officer, working with Linda Fernandez and her incredible team. And now for part 3, which ties together all the pieces of this story. Because of ABLE, we could set up a savings account for Morgan's needs without the stress of staying within that tight $2,000 limit. So when needed, we transferred money from Morgan's part-time job bank checking account into her ABLE account. So fantastic. Now remember, in part 1, when I described the importance of technology for Morgan, well, we just completed buying a brand new iPad to replace her 8-year-old iPad that was so outdated that it didn't even do FaceTime anymore. Morgan is ecstatic. She has already arranged for several group FaceTimes on her iPad with friends and is also using the iPad for learning apps that we could not access with her old iPad. And the best part is that Morgan knows she paid for it. Remember when I told you about the occupational therapist forecasting that Morgan would be a great communicator? Clearly, technology has played a key role in making that therapist's vision come true. And ABLE has allowed Morgan the ability and dignity to buy that technology for herself without penalty. In summary, our entire family is grateful for the Texas ABLE program, not only for what opportunities that it opens for us, but for opening the door for all Texans to achieve a better life experience.
Thank you, Jane, for sharing your wonderful story with us.
You're welcome.
Next slide, please. So to connect with the Texas ABLE program, you can reach out to our customer service team by calling 844-489-2253, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Or you can email us at customerservice@texasable.org. Our website is available 24/7 and provides detailed information about the program. We also have outreach specialists that are available to make presentations, including webinars during the COVID era, for people that are interested in learning more about the ABLE program. If you have a group or an organization that would like for us to make a presentation, please contact us at 512-475-5331 or send an email to texasable@cpa.texas.gov. Next slide, please. So at this time, we will turn it back over to Miranda. And if you have additional questions after today's webinar that you wish that you had asked us during the chat session, please feel free to reach out to us at those email addresses afterwards, and we'll be more than happy to provide an answer. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Linda and Rob and Jane. This was a great presentation. I do have to say, I'm laughing a little bit. Folks, everyone who's listening, we actually prepped a couple questions in case it was quiet during the chat and the Q&A, and guess what? It was not quiet. So glad that we have running the extra time. We have about 20 minutes or more here that we can answer some of these questions. I know that Marlene has been answering a lot of them on the side in the chat and the Q&A. Thank you for that, Marlene. So check there to see in case your question was answered. I've had some that are identified. I'm going to start asking our presenters. If your question isn't answered when we're going through this, guess what? We're here. And this isn't your only chance to get those questions answered. You can definitely reach out to the Texas ABLE program. You can reach out to us. Also, we'll be capturing in the post-training survey any questions you have there that you want to mention. And even the chat and Q&A, we'll all be doing some follow-up. And within the next week, hope to get you your answers. But having said all of that, that was a lot of information. And especially if folks are new, some of these questions we might have covered a bit, but people might benefit from a little more clarity. I'm going to start off they're asking, can you please clarify the Texas account limit? ABLE National Resource Center, our website has it down as 500,000. That's what was down on the slide. But some very eagle-eyed folks noted that on that disclosure document, it states 370,000. So can you just take a second and clarify that?
Absolutely, good question. Our board recently made that change to increase it from 370,000 to 500,000. So a supplement will be posted to our program disclosure statement. There were some changes in federal law that came along, and so we're incorporating those as well. So it is $500,000 is the maximum contribution limit for a Texas ABLE account.
And I have to admit, Linda, that when I saw that, I thought, oh no, we got it wrong on our site. But we do ask our state ABLE programs to provide updates on a regular basis. And so glad to know. You should always look at the state ABLE program disclosure documents for the most up to date. But as you can see, things evolve regularly, and how great that, that's increased by $130,000 limit. That's excellent.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I wonder if this might even be for, I don't know, you, Linda, or Rob. People are asking, do you need any beta testers for the debit card rollout?
Well, we appreciate the offer, but we have someone to help us with the soft launch already set up. So thank you very much, though, for asking.
All right, there were a few of those. So yeah, people are excited and want to help you make that happen. They're asking, is the debit card a PureLink card? And about prepaid card fees.
It is a U.S. Bank Focus card. And there will be more information soon on our website about this. All that's in development and will be released soon. And we will post our fee schedule as well at that time. There's no enrollment fee. There's no fee to using your card. The vendor is the one that is going to be paying the fees on the transactions, but there are some fees, for instance, if you lose your card and want a replacement card, etc. So we definitely would want you to look at that fee schedule before enrolling in the card, and it will be available soon.
Okay. Great. And a lot of these questions, just for folks listening, they're specific to the program. So anything that's just kind of basic general for ABLE, keep in mind, Marlene will be answering those in the side, and we also have other resources. But continuing to drill down into the Texas program, one of the things they're asking is, does Texas have Medicaid recapture on ABLE accounts? Can you speak to that?
Yes, our Texas Medicaid program has determined that they will do what we're calling clawback after all the eligible expenses have been paid for a beneficiary, including their funeral and burial expenses. And that payback period only applies, of course, during the period of time that they had an ABLE account open for any expenses that were paid by that Medicaid program. I noticed someone was asking about if they opened an ABLE account in another state, but they're a Texas resident, would the Texas Medicaid still apply to them as far as the clawback? And the answer is yes. So opening an account in another state, even if that state has a waiver, their waiver would only apply to their state residents and would not extend to residents of other states.
I think that's an important distinction, and that should answer. We saw a number of questions coming in on that,
Yes.
so we're hoping that helped clarify that. Please feel free to, in the chat or the Q&A, let us know if that answers your questions on that. It answered my questions, but I live in this space, Linda, with you. Okay. So another question, and hey, maybe we pull Rob in and see if he can answer this one. Rob, are you there?
I am here.
All right, I'm going to throw one to you. And maybe the next two might be good ones for you. Can we invest in just the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, Institutional Plus Shares, BSMPX? So these folks are savvy. So they're asking a real specific question on how they can invest in their ABLE account there.
Yeah, I like that question. Unfortunately, the answer to it is no. The only options that are available are the actual, the managed allocation portfolios that are comprised of underlying mutual funds, such as that Vanguard fund that was referenced, or of course the bank savings option. But the investments within the ABLE plan, because these are municipal securities, the portfolios are what kind of makes them a municipal security, and they are invested in multiple underlying mutual funds. So unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to invest directly into that fund, but certainly if you're someone who's savvy with those types of underlying funds, please read through the specifics in the investment section of the disclosure document, and hopefully there's a good option there that will at least give you some exposure to that particular fund.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. And this might be good for you too. Currently, we've been sending a check to an out-of-state ABLE account. Is it now possible to send funds via ACH bank to bank?
Well, yeah, so if the question is that someone is currently a Texas resident and they're invested in another state's plan, certainly they have the option to open a Texas plan. There is, however, a limitation, as I think Linda referred to early on in the discussion, that you can only have one ABLE account open at any given time. With the one exception to that being if you do want to establish an account in a new state, you're allowed to roll those funds over from the existing state's ABLE plan into the new state plan. So that would certainly be an option in this case if you are a Texas resident and you're considering investing in the Texas plan. And then in terms of the contribution types that are available, I'm not sure if I'm interpreting the question correctly, but there certainly is an option to do a bank, have your bank kind of push those funds to the plan via ACH, or you could set up a recurring investment plan where you provide your banking info and then it's pulled into the plan from your banking, your checking account.
And Rob, if
Well,
I might
that
just
answer.
add,
Go ahead, Linda.
Marie. Okay.
No,
I
go
might
ahead.
just add to that if you were considering a rollover for another plan, the first step would be to open an ABLE account, and then you would transfer those funds from the other ABLE account to the Texas ABLE account.
And there's information on how to do that in your disclosure documents, right?
Yes, ma'am. And on our website.
Yeah, that's an important resource for folks, and most of them, yours probably as well, have table of contents, so you can just go straight to that part around how to do those rollovers.
Yes.
Okay, great. And you answered one of the other questions I had set up for you about setting up recurring withdrawal with Texas. One thing that sparked for me from that other answer about those rollovers, Rob and Linda, would be if you're rolling over from another account, but you're above that $15,000 annual limit. If it was $20,000, you were rolling over from another state. Could you roll the whole $20,000 over? How does that count against your annual limit?
Yeah, you are able to do that, and Linda, keep me honest here in terms of any of the plan specific rules, but because of that requirement, right, that you can only have one ABLE account open at any time, if you are doing an ABLE account to ABLE account rollover, that the current limit of 15,000 per year is waived in that scenario because you need to only be able to have that one account. So if you've had an account in another ABLE plan that's grown over the years and you've contributed a good amount to it, you would be able to roll over the entire amount. You'd have to roll over, in fact, the entire amount, whether it's over 15K or not. I think the distinction there that might also be underlying that question, and Linda mentioned it earlier on in the deck as well, is if you're looking to do rollovers from a college savings 529 program, that's where you do need to be mindful of not going over that 15,000 limit in combination with any other contributions you may have made to the ABLE account within that calendar year.
Hey, Rob, just to clarify, you're absolutely right, but to clarify the amount you're rolling over, we would still look at if you had made contributions to that plan in the current year, we would still consider that when looking at your $15,000 limit for this year. Now, if you had contributed $45,000 to that account in past years, that would not count toward your current annual contribution limit.
Great clarification. Yep.
I think we have a very savvy group of question askers over here, don't you think?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm reaching out to Marlene to see if she has others to throw our way, but I do want to mention, because some folks are asking about sharing the recording, the presentation itself. We have put Hope, who you heard from at the beginning, gave the link for where the recording, the archive of this information will be posted on the ABLE NRC website. We're also going to share that recording link with the Texas ABLE program, and you guys are welcome to post it on your site or link to ours and share it widely, along with the resources, the accessible PDF of today's presentation and the live links. But we do want to, let's go ahead and just bring up on the screen, the contact information for our Texas ABLE presenters, in case folks want to follow up on that, because so much of this is going to be on the Texas ABLE program site. You can also find, of course, any information on ABLE accounts more broadly on the ablenrc.org. But Hope, if you transfer the slide deck we have up on the screen for folks to be able to see the contact information for Texas ABLE, there you go. All right. So that's the important information that you'll be getting. And certainly we want you to be able to have the takeaway as well. Let's see if there's any other. Oh, here's one that came in. Can you split the account between investment portion and working portion you use for monthly expenses?
Not sure I'm understanding that question. When you make a withdrawal, it's going to look at the contributions that you're using and any earnings on those contributions. The contributions are post-tax, so you already paid taxes on those, so you don't have to worry about that. And any earnings on the contributions that you're withdrawing, those would be tax advantage, tax-free, if you use them for qualified disability expenses. Did I answer that correctly? The way that was
yeah, I'm actually interpreting this, and I'll give an example from one of the ABLE ambassadors that we've worked with, who hadn't been very savvy about investment before, wasn't in the position to do so, had over $1 million in bills around their kid that they were trying to navigate, so hadn't been able to invest before. But with ABLE was able to do so, but was using the FDIC insured component of their ABLE program. 70% of their contributions went into that portion to just have it in their FDIC insured part of their account, whereas the other 30% they were using in kind of a more conservative or mid-level investment, just to dabble their toes and see what was the return on the investment, and maybe start learning about investments to try to, and they've since ramped it up, realizing that, oh, our money can make money for us if we're investing it potentially. There's also the potential for loss, so that money is not safe, but that's how you could grow your money. So maybe I'll toss that to Rob to talk about, can you apportion a certain amount to go into one part of your ABLE account versus another into investments, and can you differentiate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're able to utilize any combination of the 4 investment options that are offered. Whether it's at the time that you make a contribution, you can indicate which option or options and what percentage you'd like that contribution to go into, as well as you can have, kind of an allocation on file, so to speak, where if you don't indicate where a particular contribution should go, there's a default that could be 100% to the bank savings, or it could be 50% to bank savings and 50% to moderate, or 25% to all 4. If you think that makes sense, it's up to the investor to determine that allocation. But you can have funds in all 4 of those options at any given time, if that's kind of the way that you want to track for your own purposes, your shorter term funds, or the funds that you had through your earnings versus funds from other savings, if that hopefully answers the question a little bit more clearly.
Right, and so folks don't understand as well how flexible this can be. If you decide moving forward with your investments, you want to shift how you're doing that, you can do that from this day forward, but retroactively you might not be able to shift. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think if people are feeling like, well, I want to make a change in how maybe I'm making a regular monthly contribution, say, but that regular monthly contribution, I want to shift how I'm investing, or how much I have going into and available to me for those daily needs, I might say be using my prepaid card for, right? That there's some flexibility in that, just so people don't know they're not locked in and they can move and change if they learn new information or their situation changes. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good point, Miranda, and a very important distinction that you do have the ability in a given calendar year to move your actual funds that have already been invested in the plan up to twice per calendar year. You can move those from one option to another. You can move half of it from one option into a new option. You have that flexibility twice per year to make changes of actual existing funds in your account, moving that around the available options. But as far as money that you're going to contribute in the future, you always have the option to change what's considered to be kind of your allocation on file, so that if you send in future contributions and you don't tell us specifically where to allocate those, we'll at least have an allocation on file that we'll know how to allocate those funds. And then certainly if you want to, have a certain contribution you're going to make, let's say you got a tax return and you wanted to invest that more conservatively, you can always indicate to us with that contribution where you want that contribution to be allocated. And again, that could be split between funds, that could go into just one of the options. There's a lot of flexibility there. And to your point, Miranda, if you have an ongoing, say a bank automatic investment plan that's drafting from your checking account, say, $100 a month, and it's going into the moderate portfolio, for example, and you want to change that because you're now looking to save for more of a long-term goal, and they're trying to get a little bit more upside potential with your investments, and you wanted to change that to the more aggressive option, you can certainly do that at any time for those future contributions.
Right. And even the flip side, I mean, we are living through a pandemic. Things are challenging right now. So if people find that, hey, and we are seeing many people are finding more money to put into these accounts. And since they are protected savings mechanisms and people can continue to get their means tested benefits, or if you're not receiving those means tested benefits, but you have expenses, because it is expensive to live with a disability, that there's some flexibility there. They could even say, I've been investing, now might be a great time to get in and do investing, or maybe I need those funds from that are getting drafted to go into my FDIC insured side, so I have access to that. So you can be pretty flexible. You want to have a long-term vision and set those goals, but there's also some flexibility. And I think even realizing the moment we're living in, and people are in different places with that, and the flexibility of this is important.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're getting lots of questions here, Rob. I'm just going to keep throwing them your way because we have another 10 minutes here during the question session. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay. These are good. So they are asking, and this is a little bit of follow-up from what we had before, eventually, will we be able to choose individual stocks? And is Orion the only investment company we can invest with Texas Able?
So Orion is the program manager, and we support Texas and Linda and the folks in the comptroller's office as being the program manager and handling all of the administrative aspects and the enrollment, and when you log into the website and hosting the website and all those tasks. So we are the sole program manager for the Texas Able plan. But back to the question on the investment piece, I don't envision that would really ever be an option, and I tie it back to the answer that I gave previously, which is I think an important piece, that these accounts are municipal securities, similar to 529 college savings plans. These are also under Section 529 of the Internal Revenue Code, and they're meant to be municipal securities that are issued by states. So each state, and I think as Miranda mentioned in the intro, 40 plus states now, almost all of the states each have their own form of an ABLE program. In order for these to be municipal securities, they do need to have certain aspects with the investments. And so what you'll typically see is options that are a blend of underlying mutual funds, similar to what we have here with the Texas plan, where there is a combination of fixed income mutual funds as well as equity mutual funds in different combinations, again, to try to satisfy a range of investment time horizons and risk tolerances. But there does need to be kind of a portfolio of those funds in order for it to be considered a municipal security. So unfortunately, it's not a situation where we're able to just directly sell a particular mutual fund as part of the ABLE plan.
And now everyone can see why we provide.
Our board established those portfolios, and first they selected the underlying investments that Rob talked about, the Vanguard funds and all that. And then the board determined how they would be allocated back into those different portfolios. So right now people can just select from those individual portfolios that range from, risk tolerance. I mean, that's something you need to look in the program disclosure statement to understand better the risk of those different portfolios.
Well, and especially for folks who, this is their first foray into investing, having the different groupings and understanding, am I saving for short-term, long-term, what are my goals and what's the best grouping for me? That's really, for those of us who are not you, Rob, but who want to be able to benefit from the benefits of the growth, the tax-free growth of an ABLE account. I know earlier on we got some questions. I think Marlene answered them. The presentation hopefully answered it as well. What's the benefit of saving in an ABLE account, right? That tax-free growth of the earnings on the funds in the ABLE account, the fact that you can save above a $2,000 limit for means-tested benefits. There's significant benefits for an ABLE program. So Jane, are you still with us? Because I want to shoot a question your way that's actually a statement from someone, but are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, this is a statement from someone, but I really want to hear what you would say to this person, okay? Because I think you spoke beautifully about your personal experience and your daughter's experience. So this is someone who came in and it's just 2 sentences, no question, but she said, I have opened an ABLE account for my 32-year-old daughter. I have not added money into it yet, period. Do you have anything to share or say to this individual who shared that with us?
Well, I think everyone's situation is different, but I think that I would encourage her, if she is able to do that, or look for ways to kind of look at her whole financial picture in regards to her daughter, and see if there are ways to transfer or put money into that ABLE account. There's all kinds of advantages to doing it, as I was talking about, in terms of just managing that $2,000 limit, and also putting aside some money for emergencies. It's kind of like wonderful to be able to not have to just like walk a tightrope all the time in terms of anticipating future expenses. So I would say that if there's any way financially that she is able to do this, I hope that this webinar was able to give her some encouragement, both by what I said and what other people are saying, and all the investment possibilities that Rob was talking about, to kind of just give her a little encouraging push. Again, if that's something she can do, there's just so many advantages to doing it, and it's not taxable. So there's just so many good things about it. So I'm hoping that statement will be more like this: I haven't done it, but I'm thinking about it now.
Well, and I think even like, people might want to give you $20 for your birthday, but they feel like they can't because they don't want to mess with your limit if you're receiving those means tested benefits, right? One of the things we've seen even with circles of support, and Rob and Linda, is there an opportunity for folks' circle of support to be able to contribute into an ABLE account. You want to monitor that because there might be other regular contributions you're making in depending on your situation. But it could be, if someone has a goal they're saving for, kind of like GoFundMe, but GoFundMe can really trip up people with disabilities in terms of, oh no, I have too much.
Right.
I've now got too much money and it's jeopardizing my benefits. But if people are, instead of using a GoFundMe kind of strategy, hey, I want to support someone, they're saving up for, I don't know, whatever assistive technology they might need to have covered, or whatever resources or goals they might have. Oh, I could pitch in some money for that. And I've got this link to their ABLE account. Do you guys have that kind of strategy, Rob and Linda? That, I mean, I've seen it used widely, and small sums start adding up.
We don't. I guess our e-gifting feature is probably the best way to do something like that, where someone could send out something to notify friends and family that they're saving out for something, and they could contribute that way. The program does have a feature where it monitors to make sure that people don't exceed those annual contribution limits, but it is not going to monitor for SSI eligibility, for instance. But we do look at the annual contribution limit and return contributions to the sender whenever we can, if it would cause someone to exceed their annual contribution limit. But I think for what you're talking about, Polly Miranda, our e-gift feature would work well for that.
Yeah. So there are strategies for that. Great, thank you. These are some great questions, and thanks, Jane, for adding your perspective. I will say other family members of ABLE account owners who we know, and ABLE account owners themselves, they generally give us the feedback, all of them that I've worked with or spoken with directly, has said, I wish this had been around earlier, or I wish I had opened it up and figured it out as I go, instead of feeling like I need to know everything about it, because, you can waste the opportunity of being able to build those assets, those resources, those funds, and then have them when you need them, like the moment we're in right now.
Yes.
And Miranda, the only thing I would add to that is just, really reinforcing for folks out there who may be interested and are thinking, geez, this seems interesting and maybe it isn't too good to be true. The investment minimum requirements are fairly low, and of course everyone has their individual situation, but to get invested in one of these plans with Texas, it just takes $50 to get started, and then for the subsequent contributions, as Linda pointed out in one of her slides, is $25. So hopefully that helps people get the courage to start somewhere, and even if it's starting small, it's something that can be built on, and just take that first step.
Can I also mention
Go ahead.
I just want to sort of testify to the fact that it was so easy to open this up, and it's so easy to put to various ways, like Rob's slides or Linda's slides already showed. It's so easy to put the money in and to withdraw it. It's not complicated, and also you can always call, and the person at ABLE, the phone number is connected with the customer service and all. They are so great about walking you through any questions that you have about the logistics or otherwise. So I just want to put a plug in for the customer service folks at Texas ABLE.
Thank you, Jane. I think that's important. It's why we need people like yourself who are, family members or account owners that we're hearing from. There's all these different angles. And I know we've got about 5 minutes left. And there's a couple of other great questions in here. You know what, if we haven't answered them, we'll be looking over this and reaching out, following up with folks to make sure you get your questions answered. And again, there's the information for customer service at texasable.org. You can call the number as well. For outreach opportunities or presentations or webinars, the phone number is right there, 512-475-5331. Or you can send that email to texasable@cpa.texas.gov. And just as we're wrapping up here, I really want to thank the three of you for joining us today on our platform and giving us an overview and then diving deep with some of these questions. And to our audience, what great questions. You know, and the program continues to evolve. We actually are just now getting, you know, the legislation passed. We're coming up on the 6th anniversary of the ABLE Act next month. New programs are still opening. It's really growing. It is new. You may have heard of it before, but hopefully you have. We need to be here to provide best practices, guidance, tools, strategies. If we go to the next slide, you'll see about how to learn more with our resources. This will just have some links. We have great resources on our ABLE NRC website, and we partner with the Texas ABLE program. So you can check out these resources. We talked about our roadmaps. We talked about our comparison tools for the programs. We also have, you know, case summaries. We have federal guidance. We have information on ABLE accounts and tax time savings, as well as ABLE toolkits for employers and service providers, you know, with easy to use materials for those groups to help support, you know, their employees who have a disability or have a family member who has a disability, or for service providers who, how do I easily share information about ABLE accounts that can help folks and not have to become a subject matter expert on this topic, which can feel a little daunting until you get more on board with it. We even have, you know, our ABLE account special needs and pooled trust comparison chart, which we developed with the Special Needs Alliance. We're not trying to sell you anything here at the ABLE National Resource Center. We're trying to make sure you have access to information and you can make informed choices, and also giving platforms to the ABLE programs like Texas. And you can see how, you know, they're making changes and evolving as they go as well. There's also some resources Marlene has been sharing in the chat. I'd encourage folks to check out those resources. And in fact, Marlene, would you please make a point of providing the link to our ambassador stories? Because we do have 26 different ambassador stories that just embody, you know, similar to like what Dr. Boss, what Jane shared, what Ted shared, these stories of ABLE account owners, family members that can help resonate and also showcase what a best practice, what strategies might look like in story form. For those who, you know, the bullet points on the slides, it can become a lot, and we recognize that. So we want to hand you guys, you know, toss you some underhanded softballs that you can catch, and you don't feel like you're taking a drink of water out of a fire hose, which is a phrase I learned down in Texas. We don't want to do that. So we have these resources for you. We hope you'll avail yourself of them. Call and check out the Texas ABLE program as well. And then on the next slide, you know, as you're getting up and running with this, please help us spread the word. We need to share information with others who can benefit from this. This really is a tool that can help people become more financially self-sufficient, achieve some of those goals, life goals that we all have. You know, those are now within reach. So there's links to how to sign up for our Achievable newsletter if you've not done so far. So far you can check out other archived webinars, presentations. We break down things like, you know, qualified disability expenses. What are those? It's pretty broad, but you can find some information, good resources, check out those stories. And then on our final slide, I just want to thank, in addition to our presenters today, our sponsors for the ABLE National Resource Center. And we really appreciate all of you joining us today. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and hope you'll be joining us on future webinars and presentations. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.